World of Warcraft contains some of gaming's darkest storytelling, weaving cosmic horror, psychological torment, and genuine tragedy through 20 years of lore. So today we will explore all those mystery sections covering body horror, genocide, eternal torture, and disturbing discoveries that make WoW's darkness rival any horror franchise. Thaddeus, the monster made from children. What if I told you one of WoW's most famous raid bosses is literally constructed from the murdered corpses of women and children, and you can hear their screams begging for death until you kill it? That's not a fan theory. That's official lore from Commander Eligor Dawnbringer standing outside Naxxramas, and it gets so much worse. Blizzard tells us Thaddeus is an abomination in the construct quarter of Naxxramas, a floating necropolis that serves as the Scourge's mobile fortress. He's powered by electricity from two other abominations named Fagin and Stalag via massive Tesla coils. Players manage polarity shift mechanics where you stack positive and negative charges to avoid raid wiping. Cool. Standard MMO boss fight, except for one problem. Travel to the entrance of Naxxramas in the Dragonblight zone of Northrend. Commander Eligor Dawnbringer, a paladin quest giver, explains what you're about to fight. His exact words about Thaddeus. Built from the flesh of women and children, it is said that their souls are fused together, eternally bound within that foul prison of flesh. Not soldiers, not criminals, women and children. The Scourge specifically harvested innocent civilians, murdered them, and sewed their corpses together into a weapon. But here's where it gets darker. While Thaddeus remains alive, you hear voices echoing through Naxxramas. Please stop! Please stop! Help me! Save me! Please! No! These aren't environmental sounds. They're the trapped souls of murdered children and women begging for release. The screams only stop when Thaddeus dies, and when you finally kill him, his last words are, "Thank you." He was conscious the entire time. Every soul fused into that rotting flesh was aware, suffering, and desperately wanted death. Players have documented over 2 decades that this is WoW's darkest official lore. Forum discussions on MMO Champion and the WoW subreddit consistently cite Thaddeus as proof Blizzard's teen rating is the most generous classification in gaming history. The boss appeared in Vanilla WoW in 2006, returned in Wrath of the Lich King in 2008, and just showed up again in Season of Discovery in 2024. Blizzard has never addressed the extreme nature of this content. Not in patch notes, not at BlizzCon, not in developer interviews. They built a raid boss from child murder and moved on. The Scourge didn't just kill civilians, they harvested women and children specifically to create weapons, kept their souls conscious through the process, and forced them to experience torture until adventurers granted them death. Every time you killed Thaddeus, you were ending the suffering of dozens, maybe hundreds of innocent victims. And that electricity animating him, that's what keeps the souls bound together, unable to separate, unable to die. This isn't mysterious storytelling. This is Blizzard putting body horror and child victims into a mainstream MMO, calling it teen-rated content, and never explaining why the Scourge chose this particular cruelty. But Thaddeus is just one monster created by the Scourge. What if you were the monster? What if a starting zone forced you to torture prisoners, massacre civilians, and become a soulless killing machine, and that's the quest reward? The Death Knight starting zone. You are the monster. Most WoW classes start by killing boars or collecting bear asses. Death Knights start by torturing prisoners to death, massacring fleeing civilians, and earning the title Soulless Killing Machine as an actual achievement tracked by the game, and you don't get a choice, it's required to progress. Blizzard tells us Death Knights are former heroes raised by the Lich King and forced to serve the Scourge at Acheris, the Eben Hold, a floating fortress in the Eastern Plaguelands. You're supposed to break free and redeem yourself. Great redemption arc. Except first, you commit war crimes. Multiple war crimes with quest rewards. The quest, How to Win Friends and Influence Enemies, that's the actual name, quest ID 12720, is given by Prince Keleseth, one of the Lich King's commanders. He hands you Keleseth's Persuaders, which are literally torture implements, and tells you to extract information from Scarlet Crusade prisoners. When you target a prisoner, your character says, "I'll tear the secrets from your soul." The victim screams, "I'll tell you everything. Stop, please." Your character responds, "Lies. The pain you're about to endure lore will be talked about for years to come. Then, the quest text updates. Scarlet Preacher dies from the torture. You tortured someone to death. That's the objective. Cool, but that's just one quest. Head to Lights Point and Havenshire for Massacre at Lights Point, and Tonight We Dine in Havenshire. You're ordered to slaughter not just Scarlet Crusaders, the fanatical military zealots who arguably deserve it, but Havenshire citizens, innocent civilians. The quest note explicitly states, citizens of Havenshire and New Avalon often like to beg for their lives just before you attack them. Blizzard programmed civilians to beg for mercy, then made killing them a quest objective. But here's where it gets worse. The quest, the gift that keeps on giving from Gothic, the Harvester gives you a portable plague spreader. You infect living miners with Scourge Plague, transforming them into ghouls. Some become enraged spirits. Others become undead slaves. You're weaponizing a disease that turns people into zombies, watching them transform in real time, and the quest rewards you for it. Then there's the Endless Hunger, where you kill chained prisoners called unworthy initiates. Failed Death Knight candidates locked in soul prisons. You release them, they desperately fight back, knowing they're about to die, and you slaughter them anyway. What about the climax of this horror show? The quest The Light of Dawn requires you to kill 100 defenders of the light at Light's Hope Chapel. 100. The Lich King sends you to massacre an entire settlement of paladins and priests, and it's all a trap to lure out Tyrion Fordring. You were the bait. Every person you killed was meaningless to the plan. Players discovered a hidden book in Icarus called The Death Knights of Icarus that tracks your progress. Phase 1 says, needs more cowbell. Cute. The final phase reads, Soulless Killing Machine. No remorse, no regrets. Has killed more Scarlet Crusaders, destroyed more lives, and caused more chaos than any Death Knight before them. Promoted to Scourge Commander. That's your character. The game officially labels you a soulless killing machine who destroyed more lives than any other Death Knight. And the quest reward text for The Light of Dawn states, there will be no atonement for us. We are forever damned to walk the earth as monsters. Every Death Knight player character canonically committed these acts. Your character is a war criminal. Torture, civilian massacre, biological warfare, mass murder, it's all on your permanent record. And Blizzard designed this intentionally. The developers wanted players to feel complicit in atrocities, then experience horror at what they'd done, a psychological trick most games would never attempt because it risks making players hate their own character. This isn't an edgy backstory mentioned in a codex entry, this is mandatory gameplay. You perform the war crimes yourself, with your own hands, following explicit instructions, and the game rewards you with titles celebrating your cruelty. The Death Knight experience was designed to disturb you, but WoW's old gods take psychological horror to another level entirely. Whispers that target your deepest insecurities, visions of the worst moments in history, and an enemy who claims you were his creation all along. Yogg Saron, the god inside your mind. An old god who calls himself the monster in your nightmares. A boss fight where looking at the wrong thing drives you permanently insane. Whispers that tell you it was your fault and your friends will betray you. And a disturbing revelation, according to Yogg Saron, your mortal body is his gift to you. Welcome to WoW's deepest dive into Lovecraftian cosmic horror. Blizzard tells us Yogg Saron is one of the old gods imprisoned beneath Azeroth by the Titans thousands of years ago. He's locked in Ulduar, a massive Titan facility in Northrend, and you're there to kill him during Wrath of the Lich King's patch 3.1 raid. He's got fancy titles like the Lucid Dream and the God of Death, standard cosmic horror boss with tentacles and mind control mechanics. Okay, fine. Just another raid encounter, except the fight starts with a lie. You enter the prison chamber and meet Sarah, a beautiful Vrykul woman who claims she's been guarding Yogg Saron for ages. She helps you fight enemies, provides buffs, and encourages you with lines like, let hatred and rage guide your blows. She's on your side. Great. Except Sarah is Yogg Saron. Her buffs secretly debuff you. You deal 20% more damage, but take 100% more damage. She's manipulating you into generating negative emotions that feed the old god. Then she reveals herself. I am the Lucid Dream, the monster in your nightmares. Cower before my true form. And Yogg Saron screams, bow down before the god of death. But here's where it gets darker. The boss fight includes a mechanic where players enter portals into Yogg Saron's brain and witness 3 visions of historical traumas. Vision 1 shows Garona assassinating King Lane in Stormwind Keep, one of Warcraft's most famous betrayals. Vision 2 reveals Neltharion, later known as Deathwing, corrupting the Dragon Soul. Yogg Saron was behind Deathwing's madness. The old god drove the Earthwarder insane, causing the cataclysm that would destroy Azeroth thousands of years later. Vision 3 shows the Lich King torturing Bolvar for Dragon with fire, and Yogg-Saron declares he will learn. No king rules forever, only death is eternal. That exact line is later spoken by King Tyrannus' ghost to dying Arthas in the Lich King's defeat cinematic. It was a prophecy that came true. What about the sanity mechanic? Players have a sanity bar starting at 100. Looking at laughing skulls floating around the room drains sanity. Reaching 0 sanity equals permanent mind control for the rest of the fight. Your character becomes Yogg-Saron's slave and attacks your own raid. The ability Induce Madness triggers at 60 seconds inside his brain, instantly dropping you to 0 if you stay too long. Where did Yogg-Saron get the skulls? Why are they laughing? The game never explains. Then there's the puzzle box of Yogg-Saron, an archaeology item from Cataclysm that whispers when you click it, "It was your fault." Repeated over and over. At the bottom of the ocean, even light must die, foreshadowing N'Zoth in the battle for Azeroth. In the Sunken City, he lays dreaming, a direct Cthulhu reference. Have you had the dream again? A black goat with 7 eyes that watches from the outside, describing Y'Sharj, an old god who wouldn't be revealed for years. There is no sharp distinction between the real and the unreal. Like, players on MMO Champion spent years analyzing these whispers, trying to decode prophecies that Blizzard planted half a decade before they paid off. But the worst revelation comes from Il-Ginoth, a servant of N'Zoth who appears in Legion. He whispers, "Flesh is his gift. He is your true creator." Yogg-Saron created the Curse of Flesh that transformed Titan-forged constructs into mortal beings. Humans, dwarves, gnomes all exist because of Yogg-Saron. Every mortal race is his corrupted creation. You're not fighting an alien god, you're fighting your creator who's telling you that your existence is a mistake he made on purpose. The whispers aren't random. They target player insecurities, betrayal, inadequacy, guilt. Yogg-Saron wants you to doubt your friends and yourself. That's not mysterious storytelling, that's psychological warfare disguised as a video game boss. Old gods attack your mind. But Blizzard hid physical horrors too. An entire dungeon area so disturbing it was cut from the game and sealed away for over 15 years until players found a way in. The Karajan Crypts, what Blizzard tried to hide. A pool filled with drowned corpses hanging upside down from chains, a pit where you land on a massive pile of bones, an abyss that goes so deep players couldn't find the bottom. All of this existed in WoW from launch, sealed behind a gate Blizzard never intended you to open. And when players finally got inside, they found something so disturbing that theories claimed it violated ESRB ratings. Blizzard tells us Karajan is a raid dungeon in Deadwind Pass, the Tower of the Guardian Medivh. You fight demons, undead, and corrupted arcane constructs across multiple floors. Standard fantasy raid with chess pieces and opera events. Cool. But underneath the tower there's a massive crypt system, and Blizzard sealed it with an iron gate, added invisible walls, and hoped nobody would look too closely. Players got in anyway. Paladins used divine intervention to die near the gate, run through as ghosts, then resurrect inside. Warlocks used fear effects to clip through walls. Some players just died nearby and walked their ghost form straight through the sealed entrance, and what they found was a fully built dungeon that Blizzard had removed from the game. The upside down Sinner's Room was the worst. Player descriptions from early exploration documented a vast underground pool with heavy rusted chains strung up in a tangled mess throughout. Corpses, bloated and waterlogged, are tied to these chains by their arms and legs, the sinner's necrotic limbs brushing against you as you try to navigate the tangle of chains, drowned corpses hanging upside down, preserved in water, their bodies touching you as you swim past. But here's where it gets worse. When Season of Discovery finally made the crypts accessible in January 2025, nearly 20 years after launch, Blizzard revealed the official lore. Egwene, the guardian of Tirisfal, who lived in Karajan, was paranoid and under the influence of Sargeras. The citizens of the town below treated her as their leader. She punished every crime with the cruelest fate possible. Their bodies hung up upside down within a pool of water in the crypts, their souls sealed forever even long after their bodies were drowned. Petty criminals, thieves, minor offenders, drowned upside down with their souls magically trapped inside their rotting corpses for eternity. That's what a corrupted guardian of Tirisfal did to her own people. What about the other areas? The pit of criminals drops you onto a massive pile of bones. The Well of the Forgotten extends so deep underground that players in 2006 couldn't find the bottom even after falling for minutes. The Tomb of the Unrepentant contains burial chambers with no explanation. Blizzard built an entire dungeon wing dedicated to showcasing medieval torture and supernatural cruelty, then hid it from players for 15 years. Bashuk, a Blizzard community manager, addressed the crypts in 2014 and said, "I can't imagine the game rating rumor is accurate because if it was content we wanted to use, we'd just take out the upside down sinners or whatever the issue was, more likely we just changed our minds. John Stotts, the original level designer, confirmed in a 2018 Reddit AMA that the crypts were meant to be questing areas but weren't needed. He stated the upside down sinners room was inspired by Big Trouble in Little China. A reference to a movie torture scene became permanent WoW content that Blizzard sealed away and pretended didn't exist. For years, the Karajan crypts represented WoW's greatest mystery. The reality, cruel punishment by a corrupted guardian, proved almost as disturbing as the speculation. Blizzard finally restored access via the Riddle of the Lucid Nightmare puzzle in patch 7.3.0 in 2017, then made it a full dungeon in Season of Discovery Phase 7 in 2025. Egwin's cruelty was the result of corruption, but nothing in WoW matches the deliberate personal cruelty inflicted on one character, a woman tortured so thoroughly that her suffering echoes through multiple expansions. What Arthas did to Sylvanas, she wasn't just killed. She was tortured, mutilated, impaled, and murdered, then had her soul ripped back from the afterlife specifically so she would suffer more while being forced to destroy everything she loved, and that torture echo explains her entire character arc across 4 expansions. Blizzard tells us Sylvanas Windrunner was the Ranger General of Silvermoon, the highest military rank in the High Elven Kingdom. When Arthas invaded Quel'Thalas with the Scourge, she became such a thorn in his side that he developed a personal vendetta. He wanted her dead. Standard villain motivation, cool, except Arthas didn't want her dead. He wanted her suffering. When Arthas finally defeated Sylvanas, she begged for death. His response: "The last thing I would give you is the peace of death." According to official lore, she was tortured, mutilated, and eventually Arthas himself murdered her for sheer pleasure. Her corpse was thrown onto a meat wagon, later locked in an iron coffin as further humiliation. That's where the story should end. But moments after Sylvanas passed into what she described as comforting darkness, she felt agony unlike any she had ever known. Arthas ripped her soul back into the world using Frostmourne, which consumed a fragment while leaving her consciousness intact. She became the first High Elven Banshee, a haunting, mournful phantom with no body, no control, and full awareness of what was being done to her. But here's where it gets darker. While enslaved to Arthas's will, Sylvanas was forced to participate in the destruction of her homeland Quel'Thalas, the corruption of the Sunwell, and attacks against her own people. She was fully aware but unable to stop herself. Every order she followed, every high elf she killed, every sacred site she helped defile, she was conscious for all of it. Arthas didn't just want a powerful servant, he wanted her to suffer the knowledge that her undead hands destroyed everything she died defending. Shadowlands revealed Frostmourne didn't just kill, it split souls. Part of Sylvanas' soul was consumed and frozen in time within the blade. She operated for years without her full soul, which potentially explains every atrocity she committed later. The Sylvanas who burned Teldrassil, who worked with the jailer, who committed genocide, she was incomplete. A fractured being running on trauma and a fragment of her original self. What about her afterlife vision? The official short story Edge of Night describes what happened when Sylvanas committed suicide by throwing herself from Icecrown after Arthas' death. She saw only darkness, and then she truly felt for the first time in a long while. She recoiled in agony. There were others in the darkness, things she didn't recognize because nothing so terrible could exist in the world of the living. She encountered Arthas' tormented spirit appearing as a frightened child who ran to her for help, then retreated in horror upon recognizing her. Even in death, even in the afterlife, Arthas' cruelty followed her. Sylvanas' entire character arc from hero to villain stems from trauma so severe that even death couldn't provide escape. This isn't mysterious storytelling, this is Blizzard creating a torture victim, forcing her to relive her trauma across multiple expansions, then punishing her for the actions she committed while broken. Sylvanas' torture was personal, but WoW contains mass horrors too. Entire civilizations burned, bombed, or exterminated. And in one case, players were forced to participate in what can only be called genocide. The burning of Teldrassil. Genocide in a video game Blizzard made players watch as thousands of Night Elf civilians, men, women, children, burned alive inside a world tree, then they raised the survivors as undead soldiers forced to fight against their own families. Players quit over this storyline, and Blizzard called it necessary for the story. The War of Thorns was the Battle for Azeroth pre-patch event in 2018. Sylvanas led the Horde to conquer Teldrassil, the Night Elf capital, and a massive tree housing an entire civilization. The military objective was already achieved. The Horde controlled Darkshore. The Alliance was evacuating civilians. Cool, standard faction war content, except Captain Dalaran Summermoon, mortally wounded, told Sylvanas, "You can kill us, but you cannot kill hope." Sylvanas turned Dalaran's head toward Teldrassil and screamed, "Burn burn it. She ordered the tree torched with thousands of civilians still inside. Named victims include Captain Delaran Summermoon herself, later raised as an undead Dark Ranger in Shadowlands and forced to serve the woman who murdered her. Stare Starseeker, a priestess who stayed behind to pray for those who couldn't escape. Finel, a night elf child documented as the last survivor evacuated by Mia and Gen Greymane. Exact casualty numbers were never given, described only as massive. The attack specifically targeted civilians. The Horde's military objective was complete. Sylvanas burned them anyway. But here's where it gets worse. This wasn't WoW's first genocide. 4 years earlier in Mists of Pandaria, Garrosh Hellscream dropped a mana bomb on Theramore. Ronan, leader of the Kirin Tor, sacrificed himself in the explosion. Kindy Sparkshine, Jaina Proudmoore's teenage gnome apprentice, was so saturated with arcane energy that she disintegrated into violet sand when Jaina touched her body. That moment made Jaina snap and turned her hair white from trauma. Players thought Theramore was the darkest blizzard would go. They were wrong. After Teldrassil, Sylvanas ordered Derek Proudmoore, Jaina's dead brother, raised as Forsaken, with explicit instructions that once his mind has been properly conditioned, we will allow the Proudmoores to recover their long-lost prince so he can slaughter them in their sleep. Derek's reaction upon awakening. What is this? Why am I... what have you done to me? Please, help me. I don't know what's happened. What's been done to me? He was conscious, confused, and begging for help while Sylvanas planned to use him as a weapon against his own family. Community reaction was severe. Horde players reported feeling complicit in fictional genocide. Night Elf players felt their race received no proper resolution. Major criticism emerged that Sylvanas faced inadequate consequences for mass murder. Reports surfaced of players quitting specifically over this storyline. And the resolution? Tyranda's Night Warrior Vengeance arc ended with Elune, the Night Elf goddess, telling Tyranda to let go. The genocide was never properly addressed. The perpetrator's punishment was searching for lost souls in the afterlife. WoW depicted genocide, the deliberate mass murder of civilians based on their race, and moved on like it was just another faction warbeat. This isn't mysterious storytelling. This is Blizzard putting ethnic cleansing in their game and calling it teen-rated content. The burning victims went somewhere, and what WoW revealed about the afterlife may be the franchise's darkest content yet, a realm where torture is currency, souls can be permanently destroyed, and even death provides no escape. The Maw, designed for eternal suffering. A realm where the ground is literally made from souls pounded into dust, where one victim's soul finally broke after experiencing the burning of Teldrassil 115 times in a row, where souls are melted down into weapons and dying there means permanent annihilation. Welcome to WoW's official afterlife. And somehow it's worse than you think. Blizzard tells us the Shadowlands is where souls go after death, sorted into different realms based on their life choices. Bastion for the virtuous, Maldraxxus for warriors, Ardenweald for nature-bound souls, Revendreth for the prideful who need redemption. Sounds reasonable. A cosmic sorting system with different afterlife experiences. Great. Except there's a fifth realm nobody talks about until Shadowlands launches, the Maw, ruled by Zoval the Jailer. Described as the Shadowlands' inescapable prison where the most irredeemable souls are damned to suffer for eternity. Okay, fine. Fantasy hell for the worst beings in existence. Except the Maw isn't just a prison, it's a torture factory where suffering is the product. The ground of the Maw is literally made from souls, not metaphorically. Official lore states, the Maw's ground is formed from souls pounded into dust. Every step you take is on the remains of beings who were destroyed so thoroughly their existence became terrain. Reality shifts constantly to the jailer's whims, and the Eye of the Jailer mechanic tracks how much attention you've attracted. Tier 1 brings artillery bombardment from watchtowers. Tier 3 spawns assassins during every combat called the Hunted. Tier 5 triggers immediate extermination where players receive progressively less healing until shadow damage kills them. The Maw itself hunts you. But here's where it gets darker. A removed flavor text from early Shadowlands described a specific night elf soul tortured through physical abuse, psychological torment, including being forced to listen to gnomish tavern jigs and experiencing 115 repeats of the burning of Teldrassil. Their soul finally broke after reliving genocide over 100 times. That's not mysterious cosmic horror. That's systematic psychological destruction using a victim's worst trauma on loop until consciousness shatters. Torghast, the tower in the center of the Maw, takes it further. The fracture chambers feature prisoners from across the Shadowlands have their bones endlessly broken and mended in a cruel cycle of torture. The soul forges show doomed souls are brought to be melted down into weapons and armor for the jailer's army. Souls aren't just imprisoned, they're raw materials. The ossuary of the banished stores soul fragments from Frostmourne victims, thousands of fractured beings who can never be whole again. And players can sacrifice soul remnants, tortured, tormented, and bound varieties for power buffs. You're consuming tortured souls as gameplay consumables. If you enjoyed this deep dive into WoW's expansions and want to see World of Warcraft's worst races explained, check out the next video.